I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Council of the Village of Chase to be held in the council chambers at the village office here and via Zoom on day, April 22nd, 2025 at 4 p.m. Acknowledge Councillor Stevens is on Zoom. You can hear us, Councillor Stevens?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Number 2 is adoption of agenda. I'd like to make an amendment that we put 6.2 ahead of 6.1. Do you have a seconder for that one? Second by Councillor Tonic. All in favor? That's carried. Number 3, adoption of the April 8th meeting. Councillor Torban.
Move.
Councillor Herman, any questions? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Public hearings, none. Number 5, public input on current agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the gallery to provide input on items on this agenda. Is there anybody here on Zoom that wishes to speak at this time? There's also an opportunity at the end to speak on any municipal matter. So was there anybody at this time? One person? Okay, name and address, please.
It's Angie McLaren, 462 Maple Place here in Chase. And I'm just speaking on behalf of the Elders Up for Climate Change, and just want to commend Danny Stevens for, yes, for signing the open letter. There's a multitude of reasons why I think mayor and council should, more mayor and council, or mayor and council should continue signing on, or more that we have here can sign on. There's so many reasons, obviously the heat dome, fire alerts, anxiety that's caused by the climate change and the climate events that are happening near us and throughout BC. Insurance costs, displacements of people, fundraisers for people that have lost their homes, displacement of those people that are no longer able to even be in our home or in their homes. The fact that we have a Fire Smart coordinator here in Chase and that we're number 7 on the list for fire danger seems to be a good reason why we help someone that council should sign on to this open letter. Obviously a better outcome for our kids and grandkids that we sign on to this open letter and force our government to do more for the current situation. It doesn't seem to be even really on the list this year for some of the hot topics for our candidates that are running. Yeah, I can keep going on, but I'll stop there. I just truly hope that more of you will sign on, and again, I thank Danny for taking it on as at least one of our council members.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. We will now go to delegations, and with the amendment, we have our new Sergeant, Stephen Newport, Detachment Commander of Chase, RCMP Detachment, and welcome, great to see you. It's good to have a sergeant in the town, and I've been hearing good things, so you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good afternoon, everybody. Like I said, my name is Stephen Newport. Took the commander position here at the Chase Detachment at the end of January this year. Previous before that, I was the operations supervisor at the Kamloops Detachment in Kamloops, and then I was with the City Detachment before that in various roles. Bale Mount and then Prince George is where I started my career 24 years ago. So I had a few slides with some stats, so we can kind of go through that quick, or I can give you an update on our events from this morning. If you guys have a preference, which one?
Look, just, you have the floor, you decide.
Let's get through the stats. Just want to go to the next slide there if you can. I promise it'll be short. There you go. So this is just call volume. Oh. Be able to go back
Keep losing it.
There we go. Okay, so this is just calls for service, and this is just for the Village of Chase. So it just kind of shows per month breakdown and then a yearly total. As you can see over the last 3 years anyways, looks like we're having a trend of kind of going down for calls of service. Lots of reasons that could happen. When you look at multiple years beyond 5 to 10 years, you can see this as kind of like a natural flow. In this one here, like I said, I wasn't here in Chase in 2022. It looks like we would have had a fairly busy summer stretch, and would have started even earlier into April and stretched out into October, which probably accounted for that large number for that year. In comparison for the detachment itself, because we are a provincial detachment, we cover a fairly large area, including Sorrento, Pritchard, North Shore, etc. The totals for the year for the actual detachment itself is it's a little over 3,300 for 2022, almost 3,200 for 2023, and 3,000 for 2024. So that's kind of the total. So that's just all calls of service. And if you want to go to the second one, I'm sorry, it's not super easy to kind of see on the screen there, but that's kind of a breakdown of the different calls for service or what it would be in the village itself, as far as the more common property crime, persons crimes, etc. And again, nothing in there really jumped out too much for me, kind of going through that. It kind of gives you a little trend of what was going on the last few years here. Then, you want to look at that a little bit more, or?
I'm thinking we're gonna get paper copies afterwards
Yeah.
for us to look at.
Yeah, you got it, for sure.
And council will ask questions when you're done, if you're okay.
Yeah. And then you go to the next one there. Added this one in, because it ends up being a topic of conversation. We get a lot of questions about mental health, addictions, overdoses, etc. So these are the numbers for within the village of mental health related occurrences. Generally speaking, this is going to be something that we go to where we apprehend somebody, where there is a clear defined mental health concern with that person that we're dealing with. This wouldn't account for where we suspect maybe there might be something else going on, or we don't know there's an actual diagnosis. This is just going to be we make an apprehension and we help somebody go to the hospital to get some help. So that's what these call numbers are here. And then the last page is just sort of a breakdown. We have a crime analyst case out of Kelowna that assists us, and this is just a breakdown of how she comes up with the statistics within our computer database systems that we have that kind of collect all the stuff there. There's a little bit of a breakdown there. So that's the statistics there. And then for our events this morning, we had our Kamloops City Detachment Target Enforcement Unit started a investigation earlier on in the year that culminated with them identifying a target that was here in Chase. They executed a search warrant this morning for firearms here in town, and the emergency response team, the ERT unit from Kelowna, out of Southeast District, came to assist with that. As it was a firearms offenses, there were going to be some pretty serious high risk as far as the way we kind of look at it for firearms, so that we use their assistance to try to make it safer for not only the community but the residents that we're after and our members itself. So the emergency response team was there. Chase Detachment supported the investigation as well. They executed the search warrant. There's no arrests made today as of yet. There will be some charges pending result of the search warrant. Shortly after they went into the residence, after the search warrant was executed, they ended up finding what was suspected to be some explosives. So we have the explosive disposal unit coming up from Lower Mainland. They should be here, if not already, at some point today to deal with that. And then once we determine that's safe, then they'll be going in and continuing their search. So what that means, what it looks like for us is we're gonna probably be holding on to that residence overnight. So we'll have police officers there doing scene security. I would imagine that we'll probably be turning the house back over to the homeowners tomorrow morning, afternoon or sometime. There you go. I can't get too into too many specifics on the actual investigation itself, as it is still an active investigation. But its charges are certainly gonna be coming out of that one.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from council? Pretty quiet.
Quite a bunch.
I'd just like to mention we have a previous sergeant. Is that your rank, Glenn? Sergeant? We have a previous sergeant command here. Yeah. Keeps us in line.
Keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. But it's great to have you here. It's good to have a sergeant commander here. And I think everybody appreciates what you did today. So thank you very much, and
Yeah, I'll share it with the team. Thank you.
if there's no other questions, keep up the good work.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great meeting, and we'll see you guys again.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, now we'll go on to 6.1 Brent Ashby, KPMG, 2024 Village of Chase financial statements. Brent, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here today. I'm gonna walk you through the audited financial statements for the Village of Chase for the year ended December 31st, 2024. And I'll just kind of point you to the page numbers as we move along. So first of all, I want to thank the team here at the Village of Chase for all their assistance in getting through the audit on a timely basis. I appreciate their cooperation and help. If you move a couple pages in on the financial statements to the auditor's report. One more page over, please. Yes. So right at the top, our report is to the mayor and council of the village, and at the top is our opinion on the financial statements based on the audit procedures we carried out and my team carried out over the last couple of months. We basically are providing an unqualified opinion, meaning your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards for the year ended December 31st, 2024. The rest of our report, which I won't go through in detail, goes through our basis for our opinion, the requirements, responsibilities of management for the financial statements, and our responsibilities as auditors, and the responsibility of those charged with governance, who are our council. Then we'll get into the actual numbers following the auditor's report. One more page, please. Okay, starting with the statement of financial position. So, statement of financial position shows the financial assets, liabilities, non-financial assets, and the accumulated surplus for the village at the end of December 31st, 2024, and the previous period, December 31st, 2023. So I'll go through some of the changes. Up at the top, financial assets, that is mainly cash and short-term investments, but it's also other items that are easily turned into cash, like accounts receivable. So if somebody owes the village money for utilities or taxes, that's readily converted into cash. So those are included in financial assets. So cash and cash equivalents would be up about $300,000 over the prior year to just over 9.6 million. And that's made up of about 1.3 million in cash and about 8.3 million in money market funds with the MFA. Accounts receivable is divided into three categories there. No major change in taxes receivable or utilities receivable over the prior year, while other receivables increased due to a government grant that was receivable for wastewater treatment plant improvements at the end of the year. So about 10.9 million in financial assets, about a $700,000 increase over last year. On the liability side, some decrease in accounts payable and accrued liabilities by just over $100,000 to about $274,000. No significant changes in accrued payroll expenses. Deferred revenue has gone up over last year, and that's mainly due to some grants that you received during the year that you haven't utilized yet and will be utilized into revenue in the following year. So flood mitigation grant, also a housing initiatives grant that will be recognized as revenue when you utilize those funds likely in 2025. term debt, so you have a number of loans with MFA for various asset purchases in the past. You did have one new loan in the current year of $100,000 for an equipment financing. So total term debt outstanding at the end of the year was about $1,773,000. Last year, you had to adopt a standard on asset retirement obligations, so what those are future costs to retire assets such as buildings that may have asbestos because they're older facilities that you have to at some point remediate those properties. So there is now a standard as of 2023 where you have to recognize some future cost to clean up those assets and retire them. So total liabilities up about $266,000 to just shy of $3.4 million, and your net financial assets, being your financial assets less your financial liabilities, has improved by $438,000. So that's a nice measure looking at net financial assets going up to $7.5 million. Non-financial assets are mainly your tangible capital assets. That's your roads, your buildings in the community, infrastructure like sewer, water, utilities, which is your largest component on your statement of financial position. And during the year, you spent about $2.1 million on new capital additions for the community. And your accumulated surplus has grown at the end of the year to just shy of $39.3 million. If you move to the statement of operations on the next page, this statement reflects your original budget, passed approved by council at the beginning of the year, as well as your 2024 actual revenues and expenses and your 2023 actual revenues and expenses. So up at the top, as you can see on the screen, is total revenues. Budgeted was about $12 million, and so there was quite a bit more budgeted for federal government transfers that didn't materialize during the year. But if we compare actual 2024 revenues, they were just over $6.3 million as compared to about $6.9 million last year. The biggest change is in the government transfers line, provincial. So in 2023, municipalities across the province received a Growing Communities Fund grant. In Chase, that was about $1.5 million. So that is pretty much bang on the change in provincial government transfer revenue decline in 2024. You see some increase in taxation as budgeted. It's gone up about $271,000. User charges have also gone up. That would be mainly increase in water utility charges as well as sewer utility charges. Some increase in federal government transfers during the year by about just over $250,000. Investment income remains relatively strong because the last couple of years interest rates have been higher, so your cash reserves in the money market fund with MFA have generated fairly strong returns as compared to a couple of years prior when the interest rates were relatively low. On the expense side, if we just scroll down the screen a little bit, you can see that overall total expenses were just over $5 million, just shy of $300,000 increase over the prior year. General government is up about $126,000. That would be increase in wages, benefits, IT support would be some of the major increased costs in 2024. Protective services is down from last year by over $100,000. Yet the EOC center costs in 2023 accounting for that change to 2024. Transportation flat with prior year. Some increase in parks and rec, and that would be wages, benefits, arena costs over the prior year and others. Water utility and sewer utility, some increases there as well. And then development services with some consulting and ECDev costs accounting for the change from 2023. You still ended up with a strong surplus position. You take it over almost $1.25 million. You compare that with the prior year and didn't receive the $1.5 million from the Growing Community Fund. So still a strong operating result for 2024, and not a lot of really large capital grants. There was some, but not millions of dollars of government transfers in 2024. So your accumulated surplus at the end of the year, just about 39.3 million. We can flip ahead maybe to note 3 on page 12. I mean, let's go through some of the key notes that support those balances in the statement. Just up a bit to the cash note. Yeah. So I did mention this as I was going through, but you can see your cash and cash equivalents is made up of both cash and short-term investments. And the annual rate of return last year was approximately 4.83% on your money market funds. So you're getting a strong rate of return, not quite as high as 2023. Moving to the next note I want to look at is on the next page, deferred revenue. Thank you. So just hold it there for a minute. So deferred revenue would be funds that you've received, not yet spent, will be recognized as revenue in a future period. So a major component of that is development cost charges. Those will be utilized in a future period against a project appropriate for those cost charges. But there was, several grants that were deferred, as I mentioned, flood mitigation planning grant, the local government housing initiatives grant, and community resilience fire spark grant as well that will be recognized in a future period. So an increase of just over 400,000 in deferred revenue this year. Next page to note 6 is your debt. As I mentioned, there's one new loan during the year. But you can see you've got 5 outstanding loans with MFA. The first loan, the largest loan there is the house with the highest interest rate loan at 4.52%. There was the third loan down on the page. If you just go down slightly, you can see that from time to time the interest rate does get reset, even though these are generally 25-year loans with MFA. And the one loan there with 261,000 outstanding is having its interest rate reset this month. So that will likely go up from the 1.28% that is currently being charged on that debt. If you can go to note 9, please, just looking at tangible capital assets. As I mentioned, it's on page 16. Yeah, right there. As I mentioned, tangible capital assets are your largest component on your statement of financial position. As you can see the various component on note 9 and the breakdown of where those funds historically have been spent and where the current year additions were. The largest component, I know it's kind of cut off, it's a big sideways schedule here, was about 882,000 spent on roads, bridges and drainage, and 2.1 million total spent on capital additions in the current year. Maybe go to note 10 next, please. Accumulated surplus on the bottom of page 19. So accumulated surplus is mainly made up of monies you've invested in tangible capital assets. So of the $39 million, about $29 million is invested in tangible capital assets. Well, that's funds spent in the prior year, and what's less accumulated amortization to date, less any debt associated with those tangible capital asset purchases. And that's about 29.6 million. You have about 6 million of unrestricted funds, as you can see, up about 700,000 from last year. And then council has various reserves set aside and that they've set aside for specific purposes, like the growing community funds. As I said, you received that fund in 2023, and there's still $1.5 million in reserves related to it. And the second largest component would be the gas tax funds that you receive, and those are reserved almost 1.2 million in reserves there. Road improvement reserve did go down with some spending on tangible capital assets in 2024. So about $3.5 million still in total reserves. And lastly, I just want to go through note 12 on page 21. It's your government transfers. Again, highlighting some of the change. You have a number of smaller grants in the left-hand column under 2024 that was recognized as a revenue this year. You annually receive the BC Small Communities Grant and have for a number of years. There was an increase in that amount this year. And then you've got some other smaller grants, but certainly in 2023, the large $1.5 million on growing community funds really changed the total revenue on provincial grants between this year and last year. So I'm gonna pause there, see if there are any questions council have. I appreciate your time today.
So, any questions from council at this time? Councillor Stevens, do you have any questions? No?
I do. What?
Councillor Khan.
I've lost my page, but it's to do with the garbage. Lost. What does that cost?
But to do with the
The
garbage,
garbage and that.
oh, I don't have that
Garbage.
in the statement.
Solid waste. I've lost the,
Oh, it's specifically in the statement?
You're looking at page 26,
I don't know what page I'm on that.
What do you have on page 26?
Oh. It's, yeah, is that one you're talking about? Okay, so this note just breaks down a little further your revenues and expenses by various functions. So solid waste,
Yeah.
is that what you're referring to,
Yeah,
council?
yeah.
So there was $291,000 of user fees charged during the year, so revenue for solid waste. And total expenses during the year were $263,000 between salaries, operating costs, and amortization. So there was a net surplus for 2024 of about $27,000. Okay.
And I can quickly
Yeah, please.
interject, the reason that we had that surplus, I don't know if you remember when we went through the budget, is our truck is completely amortized out now, so we have no more amortization to that service, and that's where we wanted to try and start putting that money into a reserve for our replacement.
Does that show that anywhere on this slide? Okay.
Well, that's our budget actual report.
Okay, any other questions at this time from the council? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Pleasure to be here today.
I have one more question. Do you say somewhere, putting it in layman's terms, like you've gone through the whole budget and everything's good and you're okay with it?
So what we're going through is what you've reflected internally as management reflected as revenues, expenses, assets, liabilities. And we do various procedures to make sure that what's produced by management in terms of the financial statements is fairly presented. So we don't, we aren't looking at every transaction, but we're looking at more material transactions, more material accounts, making sure that that we've got enough evidence to support the balances in your statements. So that's what we're doing. We don't look at every transaction, but we look at risk, and we look at where accounts that are more material and have higher risk and focus our efforts there.
I didn't fully investigate, but I was looking on page 9 where it says, we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. So do you say somewhere what your opinion is?
Yeah, so that's what I went through at the top, right at the very top.
Okay.
Is
Of that
our
page?
opinion, yeah, same page,
Okay,
is opinion. We have audited the financial statements of the Village of Chase, the various statements, and then in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position.
okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Okay,
so that means it's an unqualified opinion. If we had concerns, issues, or we couldn't provide an unqualified opinion, there'd be separate paragraphs outlining the reasons why that was the case.
Okay, if there's no other questions, go Councillor Torban.
So basically, as far as the audit goes, like we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing?
Yeah.
So because every once in a while we have somebody in the chambers here that says, oh, you guys should be audited. I'm going, well, we are audited all the time.
You have to be.
We have to be, but I guess some of the locals, they don't understand that. They go, well, you guys have never been audited, you don't even know what's going on in town. Well, the truth of the matter is, yeah, we do get audited all the time. But
Every year.
you tell them that, they don't listen.
Yeah, I know, and to be honest, the statements are complicated.
They are, yes.
They are very complicated, and that's my only concern is that, you know, you need some financial acumen to be able to, and, you know, training almost to be able to understand and go through. Fortunately, you have a team here that does have that acumen and able to help guide council if need be, our residents or.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of the residents, they wanna know, well, is the money being spent wisely? And that's why you have audits, to make sure the money is being spent wisely.
Yeah, be careful, and we're not doing a value for money audit, that is a different audit.
Yeah.
You know, that's something, you know, the municipal auditor general's office used to do when they had that department for a while, they would do what was called a value for money audit, looking at, are you spending money and getting true value for the dollars you're spending or certain aspects, that's different than a financial statement audit, so. What we're doing is, are your financial statements that are attached to our audit report presenting fairly the revenues and expenses that you've incurred for the year? And we attach our audit report accordingly.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you again next year.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. And thanks to staff for doing a great job, as usual.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay, now we'll go on to item 6.3, Ashton from the Chase Family Services and Chase Community in Bloom. You are up.
It's actually Ashton and Tracy, she's not gonna know this. Okay. Hey, everybody, I'm back. So over the winter months, we applied in partnership with the Village of Chase for the BC Hydro regreening grant. And we applied for, it was a fairly complex application. It was a bit unconventional, but we caught their attention and we got the grant for $7,500. The grant, anyway, it's many-parted, but one of the stipulations of the grant is that a part of it needs to incorporate a new project, and which was perfect for us because this meant that we could finally implement the final stage of what we've been working on for the last 3 years, a series of garden projects around this Village of Chase that will be essentially a self-guided walking tour. But so the BC Hydro Fire Smart Garden, it's come up because of recent events involving, climate change and the recent fires that have been happening over the past years. We've, Tracy and I have talked about it, the Communities in Bloom team, we've all been talking about how a lot of people understand fire smarting as getting rid of all the plant life and completely mowing all their lawns, you know, like just like it's not for a lot of people, fire smarting isn't very compatible with biodiversity and enhancing the natural environment. So one of our proposals is a Fire Smart demonstration garden of how people can be fire smart while at the same time creating beauty at the same time, enhancing our community on multiple levels, not just as from the environmental perspective, but also a whole bunch of mowed lawns. It's not beautiful, you know, we can be doing a lot more than that. So we're talking about a Fire Smart demonstration garden here in the heart of Chase, which would be located in the Curling Club parking lot. The Together Chase group, which I know you all have heard a little bit about, has created a priority around revitalizing the curling club. And so it was a natural location for us to decide to put this this Fire Smart garden. It's you know, you all know what that parking lot is like. It's just this heat sink, and you really can't do anything there over the summer months because it's much too hot. It's great for parking, but you know, if tourists come from out of town, there's not much for them to create shade or interest, so we're really enhancing that space. So the Fire Smart demonstration garden would feature native, fire resistant and drought tolerant plants. And then, you know, it would create a lot of community enhancement to leaning towards fire safety, educational projects, and again, beautifying. Who's doing the flipping thing? I don't know how that works. Tracy put together a very beautiful landscape plan before we submitted the grant, and we decided that we were going to scale the garden down a little bit. What she initially created was very elaborate, very involved, but this is our more manageable version that's hopefully going to be a stage 1, but we'll see. Because as so many of these projects happen, we found out that we got the funding in the spring, and so now we're running and trying to pull things together so that we can actually make this happen this spring. But Tracy, would you mind talking just a little bit about the plan that you created? I
think it put me on the spot.
Well, you do this. It's fine. It's running bad.
So basically, we just took this drawing and we just took the middle out of it so we could expand down the road. And so these were supposed to be rain gardens, and then there was a measurement coming off the roof and the gutters, and we needed to make it smaller so we could actually get more done this year.
Yeah, it's just, there's a weird grassy, weedy area right in front of the curling club. And it's pushed out from the building, like according to Fire Smart regulations, what's the magic number? You move away from buildings?
10 meters.
10 meters. So we've kind of moved out of that immediate zone of being in the vicinity of the building, and so it's more towards the parking lot, but yeah, so I know it's a little bit hard to tell, but it's got a perimeter of large stones to prevent people from driving into the space. And then it's got, you know, the theme of the whole garden is Fire Smart plants that are native to our area, and the majority of them are food producing, but you know, less common, not fruit trees so much, but more like Saskatoons and more traditional foods. So yeah, we'll go ahead and flip to the next slide here. So it is, as I said before, the last stop in our self-guided walking tour. Please don't look too carefully at this map. I did it late last night, but it's very rough. The self-guided walking tour is something that we're really excited about. We've been working in collaboration with a number of groups on, specifically the Chamber of Commerce on, but it leads between the pollinator gardens that are at the library currently to the Interior Savings pollinator garden that's managed by the environmental group, over to the museum where we have another pollinator garden that we manage, to the curling club parking lot. Anyway, this is not an exact, there will be a map, and then the food forest in Wilson Park. So at each stop, there's going to be interactive signage that links all of the different locations together, and it can be used by school groups, by different organizations, and by tourists who are just looking for a different way to explore Chase. So yeah, you can see that the curling club garden is going to really nicely fill out that self-guided walking tour. Okay. Yeah, so the BC Hydro Fire Smart Garden, yeah, we're learning a lot. We're learning a lot about what it means to have a space built on Fire Smart principles, and I wouldn't say that we're there yet, but we're well on our way. Materials are quite specific, plants are quite specific, but it's going to be a really beautiful space. It's just going to enhance that space massively. maybe it, I don't know, we'll see how the farmer's market feels about it, but it would sure be nice to have that in town again. And this would be a really nice space to be able to host that. In addition to other community events, that, you know, the curling club parking lot area is so underutilized and we could be hosting a lot more in that space. And then, of course, the environmental and cultural education that will come in hand with that. So as I said before, we're gonna have very specially selected plants there. They're gonna be native plants, almost entirely, with a few exceptions. It's gonna be a mix of trees, shrubs, ground covers. There's gonna be a rain garden in the area that, as a phase 2, we would like to be able to collect the rain off of the building and make use of that, but phase 1, we'll just put in a rain garden. There'll be a lot of plants, over 100 plants. This is yet another project that has been the result of many community partnerships, and we're really finding that that is key to sustainability. The Chase Literacy Program is going to be sponsoring an enormous self-watering planter that's courtyard style that Communities in Bloom is going to be planting every year with its with its themed plants. So this year it'll be edible plants, and next year they'll be putting something different in there, whatever that theme is. Communities in Bloom is taking a lot of ownership over this project in the care and management, and it's going to be the space that they're going to be able to use year after year for their varying themes. Something that they haven't, that they essentially need. They don't need to get permission every year to access this space. It can just be the space where they have their themes. The Chamber of Commerce is going to be working on the signage with us. Chasen Area Family Services and the environmental group will be doing varying educational programs there. And then the Village of Chase worked with us to apply for the BC Hydro Regreening Grant. And so what we're asking for here at this meeting, and I know this is unconventional and not the greatest procedure, but you tell me, because we're on a timeline here, like a substantial timeline, we really need to get going with this. We would like to break ground as soon as possible on this project. We have the go-ahead from the Curling Club. The Curling Club is supportive of this project, and they're going to they have an idea about how they're going to put a tap in place so that we can access water from their building. And so the second step to that is asking the Village of Chase for land use permission, because it is owned by the Village of Chase. And then on to the next one. We are also going to be asking for some funds, and those will follow up. Our budget is developing every day, and things are really falling into place right now. Because this is on village land, we are hoping for a contribution because we'll be enhancing that space. And again, the Regreening Grant, it basically only covers plants, and 15% of the fund can be used towards materials, but that's all. So we're quite short on material funds. We'll be able to do most things with volunteer labor with the varying partner organizations, but yeah, we are still scrambling to find the costs for, or the funds for the materials. So the 6,375, that will be able to go towards plants that will not only go in the BC Hydro Fire Smart Garden, but will also go in the varying other gardening projects around town. And then we'll be able to use 1125 towards the soil compost mulch. So we have some additional costs here that we have not figured out how we are going to fund yet. So this is where we are looking for assistance. We need to, the soil that's in that space is it's not going to support plants, it's in rough shape. And then there's additional materials, poly edging and landscape fabric, irrigation system. The whole space it's only weeds, there's no grass in there. And so we're looking at ways that the space behind the building, or by the building, can just be improved, because it would be a shame to improve the whole front space towards the parking lot and then only have weeds in behind. So we're proposing overseeding the lawn and just, putting some soil down in that area. And then it would also be really great to have a pathway going through the garden, which would be we had lots of fancy pathway ideas, but one idea is a flagstone pathway. So yeah, I'm going to be following up with a formal request for some financial aid with this project, but yeah, I'll have more information really soon. I'd love to hear your questions. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions from council? Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing this forward. Green spaces are so vital in communities. They support like mental well-being, physical health, social connection, and the fire resilient aspect of it is so important. I guess my one question, maybe for the CAO, is I don't know if there's money in the CRI grant that could be accessible to put towards this, but just a thought. And yeah, I just thank you so much for bringing this forward. I think this type of garden is so educational and important. Lots of communities are starting to explore these avenues of education, that actual sight line of education where people can see the difference it makes. And I also really appreciate you saying and countering the argument that when Fire Smart Coordinator Michael Anderson comes to your property, he is not saying get rid of all of your vegetation. He is looking at selective planting. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing this forward, and thank you very much for sharing.
Okay, other questions from Councillor Corbon?
I just have one, I sort of know that space, it's not that big, so like you're talking like 100 plants, that's trees and everything. Like, I'm a little concerned that you might make it like too dense and that everything, as it grows together.
Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like, it doesn't look clean when everything is overgrown.
Mm-hmm.
So are you looking at keeping it spread out enough so it looks clean?
One of the challenges that we're coming across because of, again, we're learning and we're settling in on a final plan, but one of the major challenges with fire smarting is the mulch and the fact that wood chips we're phasing those out. So one way that you can landscape a space is by using living mulches. So ground covers that cover the grounds and retain the moisture and stop the hot sun from beating down on the earth and just sucking up all the water. So more plants in that regard is better because they cover the ground. Bare dirt is the worst thing that you can do for a garden. It's well, it depends on who you're talking to, in my opinion. Especially we're looking at drought conditions and we're looking at ways that we can protect the garden and the space. The more plants that we have in that space is the better it's going to withstand the heat, especially with it being in this heat sink area. It's just gonna be a very challenging area to grow anything. But that's the reason that we're talking about so many plants. And I do hear you saying that in our attempt to beautify the space, we don't want it to become overgrown. I don't know, do you have anything else to say about that? Or?
Originally, we had a way more. But because of the sizing and the scale, because it's actually to scale, it shows the full size of the plant. So, and because of all the rules with Fire Smart, we actually have to spread them.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to,
there's a very specific
spacing,
spacing,
there's
right?
spacing on the heads of, or the because of the trees, stuff like that. So we did follow all those, so even if it does seem like we have a lot, it's actually calculated.
Yeah, landscape designs are very tricky, because you're right, it's not that big of a space, but also, these are varying sizes of plants. Like, there's a lot of very small, like, yeah, they're not all like shrubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any,
I
Councillor
have one more
Herman,
question, how big is the whole space, like, that you had the original design for, like, how many feet wide, do you know?
26 meters,
Oh, 26
the original?
Yeah.
Well, it's
what-
26 meters wide, and then to the building, it's 17 meters.
Oh, okay.
But we're not doing that, we're gonna.
No,
do
I know,
half.
I just wondered what the original was, cause I'm
Yeah.
trying to picture it at how big that wall was and stuff, yeah.
Councillor Coniff.
Would you guys think about putting vines, like Virginia creeper on, that part of the building, because you're gonna get a lot of heat reflecting back, eh?
Oh, that's interesting. We never thought about that now. You know, honestly, it's, we're kind of, we're taking ownership over this, like, early half, like this one that's further out into the parking lot, so that we can create more of a public space around that. But, yeah, but we're, like, this section in behind is, that's where we're really hoping the village will take over and like continue, improve the upkeep of that area. So, I mean, maybe that could be a good area for vines, but irrigation, I'm not sure about that, about getting it back there when we're focusing so much on the front part.
Oh, would it be on the front?
Oh, I see.
Not on the, behind the, not on Hyssop, on the, behind the building, no.
Oh,
In the front part, because you're gonna have the heat of the day all beating on it.
Yeah, I would say that we feel very open to suggestions about how to deal with the heat, and we hadn't considered vines, no. Yeah, because it's a very challenging area to work with because of that.
it's paint peeling.
It's paint peeling, it's so bad.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It'll hide the paint.
Just vines, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, is there any other questions from council at this time? No. Okay, thank you very much,
Alright.
everybody, and we look forward to hearing more at a future meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to number 7, reports, and I've kept mine short, thanks to Councillor Corbon. April 10th, I attended the All Candidates Forum at the Arena, and thanks to the Chamber of Commerce for, as I see someone from the Chamber here, for putting that on, thank you very much. April 11th, I attended in person the Shuswap Trail Alliance meeting at Larch Hills. I've never been there before. And April 17th, I attended a regular TNRD meeting. Councillor Coniff.
Council meeting and an in-camera meeting and then a health meeting. And then I've been approached by a few people about some trees that are on village property on Arbutus. A big limb came down and they were very concerned because there's a little group of kids that always go down there. And I've already talked to Mike and he knows about it. And also the wading pool, they know that there's gonna be some work done on it and they're hoping that it gets done sooner than later. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Herman.
April 8th, Village of Chase Council meeting. April 8th, I also attended the Chase and District Health Services Foundation meeting. And I just want to mention that there's an upcoming CPR training coming on May 3rd at CSS, that's a Saturday. I think there'll be more information out about it soon. So it's a mass training, so anybody can go to it. Also, April 10th, All Candidates Forum at the Arena. April 12th, the grad bowling fundraiser. April 17th, I volunteered at the Habitat Station for Earth Day at Shuswap Provincial Park. We had 400 plus students come through. It was a really fun day. It was excellent. North Shuswap Elementary, Sorrento School, and Haldane were all there. So it's great. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. April 8th, regular council meeting and in-camera meeting. Regular communication with staff and fellow council members as well as the public. Lots of inquiries this week via email and helped clarify information for residents seeking updates on village matters. I met with a member of the public who shared a similar idea as what we heard earlier in the chamber tonight about potentially moving markets back towards town and maybe even on Friday evenings. So just wanted to share that. I also was happy to point that person in the direction of the Together Chase meetings to offer their great offerings for the village. I also offered my support to a petition led by the Climate Action Society, which really aligns with my ongoing commitment to environmental sustainability. And last, I reviewed today's council meeting agenda and made details and comments for consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Torbon.
April 8th, council meeting, in-camera meeting, April 11th, Shuswap Trail Working Group meeting via Zoom. And again, we with public and for Public Works. I know, Mike, you were down at the public access on Arbutus. The large tree that's when you're going in to the left of the bench, well, a large part of it came down and just barely missed some people that were down there, so you might want to have a look at that thing down there. That's we got lucky that nobody got hit there, so you might want to look at that. Over and above that, reviewed agenda, monitor the emails and respond where required. Consult with staff where required and take inquiries from the public.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Connor, is that the same, you guys talked about the same tree down
Yes,
Arbutus?
yes.
Okay.
There is a group of kids that walk down there all the time with, it's like a daycare, eh?
It is a daycare.
Yeah, so they got their little,
Best
their
capes.
capes.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, we gotta do something with them, tear them down,
Those
rip them
trees
down.
are getting rotten down there and they're starting to fall apart with the winds coming up. So, and they can be dangerous for any of the public.
Cut them right down,
Okay,
get rid of them.
thank you. Need a motion to receive for information, Councillor Torbon, Councillor Herman, all in favor? That's carried. Number 8.1, unfinished business. Councillor Herman, do you want to?
Oh.
Oh, down, so.
Oh, Councillor Stevens?
Yeah, thank you. Never mind. I apologize. I thought I saw staff reports on the agenda, but I did not. Carry on.
Okay,
I move that the 2024 Village of Chase financial statements presented by KPMG at the April 22nd, 2025 meeting be adopted.
and seconder, let's go Councillor Stevens since do we have any comments? All in favor? That's carried, and then once again, thanks to the CFO and the rest of the staff for making that happen. 8.2 Cottonwood Street Water Service for Fire Protection. Councillor Conick, you wanna do that one?
As soon as I find my glasses. That council give pre-approval for the 2026 budget for the increased water line size project on Cottonwood Street from Cedar Avenue to the end of Haldane Elementary School to provide better fire protection for the Haldane Elementary, and that staff bring back the costs associated with the project before the end of the 2025, and that the project be completed before July 26th.
Do we have a seconder for that one? Councillor Torbon, discussion?
Yeah.
Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, good motion. I like this one. So I just have a couple questions. So just cost, I guess, and then scope of the project is just I don't know, a couple questions I have. I'm just wondering, like, and then potentially consulting with the schools, and I don't know, maybe they can offer, like, I'm not sure if this has happened ever, but you know, tearing up a street, maybe the school can offer some infrastructure improvement in terms of sidewalk or active transportation for their students. I'm not sure if that's an opportunity, but it's definitely something that I would like to learn more about. I think this is a great motion though, and thank you very much for bringing it forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else from council? All in favor? That is carried. 8.3, 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 947, 2025. A report from the chief financial officer. And I'd like to ask the CFO if she has anything to add at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to reiterate from the past meetings that we've had, the financial plan that I'm bringing forward today for adoption is everything we've seen for the last couple of meetings. There's increases included in here for employee wages, increases in our general administration for the audit fees and IT support. We need to account for the fact that our firefighters should be at minimum wage, so that increase is included in here as well. And we have the increase to our first responders program that we talked about and the summer program. So if council has any questions with regards to this.
Do we do the motion first and then questions? Okay, Councilor Torban.
I'll move that the 2025, 2029 financial plan bylaw number 947, 2025 be given first, second, and third readings.
Seconded, Councilor Herman. Okay, now discussion. Any questions from council? Okay, seeing none,
Loved it to death.
seeing none, all in favor? That is carried, thank you very much. 8.4, 2025 tax rate bylaw number 948, 2025. Another report from the chief financial officer, and does the CFO have anything to add to this one?
Yes, I have a quick little PowerPoint to share with you guys, only because the rates for the other taxing authorities came in after I had the reports finished, so I just want to quickly share some information with you guys. So just this screen is just our legislative requirements that we have to have our bylaw adopted before May 14th, which we're on track for if first, second, third readings get done today. We have municipalities, just as a reminder, we have to collect for school taxes, police taxes, TNRD, hospital taxes, BC assessment, and municipal finance authority. So I have all those rates established, so I'll be able to show you what that looks like this year. Just a quick reminder, tax is based on assessment. We don't set the assessments, it all comes from a crown corporation for the province called BC Assessments. And then right into the tax rates here for you. Everybody wants to see. So putting them all together with our municipal, regional district, hospital district, assessment, municipal finance authority, school and police. This year, the total residential will be 6.2104 per thousand of assessment, as compared to 6.06 from the previous year. And then going down, so utilities, there's a slight decrease. We don't get to set that rate, it's automatically set at $40 per thousand of assessment, but everybody else's rates must have gone down slightly. So supportive housing, we don't have any. Major industry, that's our class 4 property. We get told what that rate is from the province, so it was 7.5 last year. This year it's gone down to 7.46. So we've had a slight adjustment in the residential rate, but not enough that it's really noticeable. So their total tax for major industries gone up by 0.1, less than 0.1. Light industry, we don't have any in that class. Business, this is our next, we have a lot of business in town. So their tax rate is gonna go up from 15.6255 to the 16.1898. We don't have any managed forest, which is class 7 recreation. Nonprofit, we don't have, we give them all tax exemptions, and then our farm class is 11.7 to 11.9. So pretty minimal increases this year, I feels like, so. We weren't the only ones being a little more conservative with province, and they were, didn't set their rates too high either. And then just as a general overall analysis, so based on the 2025 average assessment between residential and business, so based on the average assessment of 444,248, would, the total tax bill would be 2758.96. And then same with our business class, at their average assessment of 269,000, their tax bill this year will be 4362.20. And then compared to 2024 with the average assessment and rates. So. Yeah, and that's in the PowerPoint that I gave everybody as well, so if you, yeah. And that's it.
I'm just trying to follow, so
Yep.
the tax amount of extra revenue we're gonna create overall this year, do you have that in there somewhere?
Not in here, no. You mean for taxation?
Yeah,
That increase is, it's in the report, it's, which group is it on? Which 1%? Our tax increase this year is 111,655.
are we able to get a percentage on that?
That's 4.46%.
And that's all of this?
This is everybody's increase, this is all taxes, are you talking Village of Chase, Mr. Mayor?
Well, is that,
Oh, I don't know the dollar amount, sorry, I don't have that number.
well, just even
Yeah.
the percentage amount,
Oh,
do we know that easily? We can,
Yeah, you're confusing, this is
yeah,
everything.
well,
And
I'm just
our
trying to-
residential is,
well, what I'm trying to, it was the first report just the Village of Chase, what we increased, and then there's all these other ones as well to be added on to it, or am I not?
sorry, say that again?
The one you showed us was just what we increased, the Village of Chase? Is it just the Village of Chase in that one report?
In this report is just the Village of Chase,
And that's the 4
4.4.
yeah, so how much, do we know how much it is when we add all that other TNRD stuff?
No, I don't have that number right now,
Okay,
I can get that to you.
okay. Thank you. Are there other questions from council at this time? Okay, seeing none. All in favor? Oh, did we make a motion? Thank you. Councillor Herman, seconded by Councillor Conitt. All in favor? Thank you very much. Thanks, Councillor Herman. 8.5 Broadband Initiative Cooperative Partnership with Shuswap Economic Development Society and Squilax Resource Management. CAO was to provide information, and we have a sheet of paper here. And would the CAO like to speak on this matter?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor, just to add quickly to this, so council did authorize us to participate in the Shuswap Broadband Project Cooperative last year, and so we've been working with the Shuswap Economic Development Society and Squilax as founding members, so the three organizations are founding members of the cooperative. And basically, today, we're just bringing forward to you that Chase and Shuswap Economic Development will have 10% each shares in that cooperative, and that Squilax will have 20% shares, and they will have the ability also to include other Indigenous communities over time with the Shuswap Economic Development Society and the village approving those inclusions. And basically, going back to the discussion we had last year about this, there's no cost to us at this time. Shuswap Economic Development Society has applied for significant funding to build, basically build broadband infrastructure in the North Shuswap and part of the South Shuswap. And once this cooperative is in place and we hopefully get the funding to do that project and it comes to fruition, we'll then be able to provide services through that co-op to underserved communities with really good internet service. So this is gonna be a long-term project. Once it's in place, we will then be able to see dividends as a Village of Chase from any kind of revenues that are generated from the sales of the service to those providers. So basically, instead of TELUS providing services, this co-op would be providing services to a number of different communities within the Shuswap. When that infrastructure can get in the ground or on the overhead lines, and it can actually be implemented and provided, then the Village of Chase can also then have access to that service. Right now, because we have TELUS is our internet service provider, so we are not eligible, we weren't eligible to apply for any funding under the funding program that Shuswap Economic Development Society applied for. However, with the cooperative, we will then be able to change our, if TELUS doesn't provide us or someone else doesn't provide us with broadband service, we'll be able to get that service through this cooperative.
Okay, thank you. There's a recommendation there. If someone,
No, this is provide information.
Oh, so on the handout that I gave you, there's a recommendation there.
Councillor Herman,
I move that council approve the distribution of directors and dividends as a founding member of the Shuswap Region Broadband Cooperative.
do we have a seconder? Councillor Stevens seconded it. For discussion, I was just reading the recommendation. It's probably correct, but I'm wondering that council approved the distribution of directors and dividends as founding members, or am I?
As a founding member. So
As a
basically,
founding
so each of the founding members will be considering this.
Okay,
And all of the technical people have kind of put all this stuff together. So we're a founding member, and the other two members will also be approving this as well.
okay, I got it,
Yeah.
thanks. Excellent. Any other discussion on this?
If I can add one more thing, if you don't mind, if I can just add one more thing. I think it's really positive that a municipality, a society, and an Indigenous community are all partnering with something that's gonna be Shuswap based. And I think that that's gonna bode well for any funding opportunities that come our way.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion from Councillor Stevens?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended that committee of the whole meeting about a month or so ago from the TNRD, and they were talking about broadband and connectivity. And my biggest takeaway from that meeting was the focus on connectivity rather than the quality of your internet. So for those that don't know, there are still many homes and areas in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District that can't even connect to the internet. So I took that as there was a huge focus on actual basic connectivity as opposed to quality of internet. So I think this is such a positive move forward. Thank you, Joni, for this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stevens. Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? That's carried, and thank you, CAO, for your report and turning the air conditioning on. 9.2 NG 911 grant application. There's a report from the deputy corporate.
No, development permit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm missing a few things. Number 9, new business development permit, 360 Shepherd Road. A report from the Director of Corporate Operations. It's a good report. Do you have anything to add at this time?
I don't, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. There's a recommendation there. Councillor Herman.
I move that council approve development permit DP 2025-2, subject to receipt of the landscaping security bond as per section 21.1.1 of the OCP bylaw.
Councillor Stevens, you're seconding that? Okay, discussion, council. No discussion? Councillor Cotter?
Sean, just kind of break it down a little bit so people can understand it? What the permit is?
So question from Councillor Coniff through the CAO to the,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Sure, so our official community plan, council's official community plan, has one section that is regulatory. Everything else is direction focused, but it's not enforceable. The development permit portion of the OCP is the regulatory portion, and it's enforceable. It comes with criteria, guidelines, and council gets to determine if the project meets the guidelines. So in this specific case, this development permit that council's considering is for a multi-family or a quasi-multifamily residential development. And the criteria for a development in this particular designation includes landscaping, so it's got to look nice. It includes form and character, massing, so the building also has to look nice. So you've got nice landscaping, you've got a nice building, it complements the neighborhood, it fits in. It has to have enough parking, so that's regulated within the OCP and the development permit guidelines. Lighting, electric vehicle charging spaces, which is in the OCP, it's regulation. Bicycle rack provisions, and then the garbage area has to be screened so you can't see it. So everything's going to be, a certain standard. And so council gets to determine if this project, based on the drawings and everything that's been submitted by the applicant, meets the criteria that council's put in. And our recommendation to staff, we've reviewed it, is that it does meet the criteria. It's a good project. There's no holes in it. There's no deficiencies in the drawings or the design, and our recommendation is to issue the development permit. The development permit is something that they will take, it gets registered on the title, and they can apply for a building permit. They cannot get a building permit until council issues the development permit. So it's part of the process. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's good.
yeah, very, very good report. Any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Now we're on 9.2 NG 911 grant application. Another report from the deputy corporate officer this time. Do you have anything to add at this time on this one?
Mr. Mayor, I don't think so. Mike, do you have anything you want to add to this, or? This is, as Mike's report tells us, this is basically something that is going to be done. It's not optional. CRTC says that every single place in Canada will be able to be located through the new Generation 911 system as of, I think it's March 2027. Something to that effect, and so there is some grant funding available to communities, and we're hoping, or we obviously would like to apply for the funding to upgrade some equipment in our fire trucks and to do a bunch of other things like informing the public and other activities that we need to do in order to get things rolling so that we are within all of those criteria of the CRTC.
Okay, thank you, and there is a recommendation there. Councillor Herman?
I move that council provide support for the Next Generation 911 Local Preparedness Grant application in the amount of $93,580 for the purchase of mobile data terminals, training services, public outreach initiatives, and related expenses.
Second by Councillor Corbon. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. 9.3, elbows up for climate, open letter to federal party leaders. What does council want to do with this one? Councillor Stevens?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually moved this forward to administration and asked to be put on the agenda. I think with this one, I guess my request or my thought with council is consider reading the letter and maybe individually we can sign on as as supporters, but I think it's important that we leave that up to the group.
Okay, thank you. So, do we need any,
Oh, I can do that.
Counselor Torval?
I'll just move that we receive for information.
Do we have a seconder? Counselor Coniff? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Notice of motion, number 10. Anybody on council have a notice of motion? Okay, seeing none. Number 11, opportunity for public to speak on municipal matters. This is an opportunity for members of the gallery to provide input on any municipal matter. Is there anyone that stayed for this meeting that wishes to speak at this time? Yes.
Can I ask a question? Is that, or do I need to comment?
I'll defer to our. Is it,
Basically, I just wanna ask a question about the budget. Can I go ahead and do that?
I'm just gonna refer that to staff. Is that,
Yeah, it's best if we just have you ask, offline, like,
Oh, okay,
yeah, if you don't
okay.
mind.
No,
So
that's
maybe
good.
connect just directly with Deb,
Okay,
and
that
she can
sounds
help
good.
you out with
Okay,
a bunch of
sounds good.
stuff.
Thank you.
does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Great, I'd just like to thank the representation from the Legion and the Chamber. And Len, I don't know who you're representing this time, probably a few things. And Angie for coming, so thank you. So with that, we need a motion to go into in-camera, who wants to make that one? Councilor Coniff?
Oh, where is it? Oh my God.
You put your hand up.
Read it, I'm going blind.
Change.
Okay,
Wrong
Okay,
glasses.
I had my hand up too, so. I move that council recess to an in-camera meeting pursuant to section 19(1) of the Community Charter, paragraph K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
seconded. Councilor Stevens, discussion? Okay, all in favor? That's carried, and we'll take a 5-minute break.